Hello, it's Miss Heather, and today I'm going to try and record the answers to my choral conducting study guide, questions 2 and 3, which will leave me with only one question left that I'm not quite ready to do today. So the first question number 2, is describe how the Laban movement theory might inform or influence my conducting gestures. So, first, I would like to state the 4 types of movements. There is weight, is it heavy or light? Space, is it direct or indirect? Time, is it sustained or quick? And flow, is it bound or unbound? And then the I think 11 types of combinations of those, which describe different types of gestures or movements, would include float, ring, glide, press, flick, slash, punch, dab. Those movements have different combinations of the 4 first categories. So, for example, float would be a light weight, a sustained duration of time, and an indirect space. But glide, it's exactly the same except that it has a direct movement through space. It still is light and sustained. Then flick, for example, is light and quick instead of long. And it would be indirect. Whereas dab would be light and quick, but it would be direct. And press would be a long duration, sustained, but it would be heavy in its weight, and it would be direct in its space. So, knowing that theory of movement can inform my conducting gestures by helping me to communicate the intent of the music more precisely to my ensemble. So, for example, if I was conducting He Shall Purify from Handel's Messiah, I maybe would use gestures that could fit into the dab category, because I think of that, it's not staccato, but it feels kind of staccato-ish, so bouncy, and especially at the part where the stretto comes in, I think a quick, light, and direct gesture with my hands could help evoke the sound from my choir that I think Handel intended. And if I was conducting an orchestra instead of a choir, if I was conducting for instruments and we were doing Samuel Barber's Adagio for strings, I think I would want to find a way to express press with my body, because that, to me, the sounds in that piece are so sustained. The tempo is obviously very slow, it's adagio, and it's heavy, and it does have that really direct, like there's a direction to the chord progression, you can feel it like moving forward. So just to contrast those 2 types of movements, maybe for He Shall Purify, for a dab type thing, like da, 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 da. And then for adagio for strings may be more of like a So if you think of how much weight it takes, like for the weight example, it says how much weight does it take to move this through space. So it takes more weight to move a piano than to move a teacup. And the feeling behind that sound has a lot of weight, so it takes more effort to move the feeling of that sound through the air. And I think that would pretty much be my answer for that. I hope that's a good answer. Let's see if I got it right. So, effort elements, I forgot the name of that. Effort elements, heavy or light for weight, space, direct or indirect, time, sustained or quick, flow, free or bound. How do you use the time? Direction, intentional or diffused, random, flippant, specific, control maintained, what is the point and action of the goal. The effort combinations were float, ring, glide, press, flick, slash, dab, punch. I think I got all of those right. And float is light, indirect, sustained. Ring is heavy, indirect, sustained. Glide is light, direct, sustained. Press is heavy, direct, sustained. Flick is light, indirect, quick. Slash is heavy, indirect, quick. Dab is light, direct, quick. And punch is heavy, direct, quick. And that's it for that one. So the second question is, and this I can't exactly do right now, but just running through in my mind what I could do. For a piece, I provide you with the time of the exam, complete a conductor's analysis, and develop a rehearsal plan for introducing this piece to your choir. So, from my notes, I studied why should you do a score study and what are rehearsal techniques you can use when you're helping your choir practice. Why should you do a score study? To anticipate potential mistakes your ensemble could make before the rehearsal happens, so you can solve the problems before they occur. So when you study the score, you can try to notice any tricky things that you think your ensemble might stumble over, such as a meter change or a tonal shift to a different key, or a texture change, like if it's switched from homophonic to polyphonic all of a sudden, are the voices going to be able to handle that easily? Where are people going to want to breathe naturally, and where am I going to want them to breathe? And do I need to show them where to breathe first? Will there be any diction issues? If it's in a foreign language, how am I going to help them understand the diction of that language? If it's in English, I still can't take for granted that just because I'm working with native English speakers that the diction's going to be everything it needs to be. And articulation, where are the phrases, how long are they? You kind of expect them to be about 4 measures long, but are they, or are they longer? Do we need to stagger the breathing to keep the phrases connected? Do they have any parts with other articulation like staccato or something like that to notice? And I need to know who was the composer and what was his purpose in writing this, maybe. Where was he at in his career? Like, where does this fit in his oeuvre, his whole life's work? Where was it written? Was this written to be sung in Vienna in the 1800s? Was it written to be sung in Germany in like 1912? And, you know, if I can listen to a recording of people who are indigenous to the place where it was written sing it, that can be helpful when determining how I want my ensemble to interpret this piece. I need to notice any places where it might be tricky for me to gesture with both hands, like a cutoff and an entrance that happen at the same time, or it's always tricky for me to use both hands, so I always have to practice that ahead of time, especially if there's an entrance on offbeat. Cueing the breath, the beat before, and then the entrance on time, and like where are the people I'm going to be cueing, thinking through all of that. It's really good to do ahead of time, and I would write it on the score. Sopranos on the right, or whatever. And then I need to determine, how do I want to mark my score? Do I want to have lots of notes? Do I want to have like highlighter? Do I want to use an iPad to prevent having to turn a bunch of pages? Do I want to memorize the score ahead of time? And rehearsal techniques I could use, there's many. I would plan to start the rehearsal always with vocal warm-ups, maybe with lip trills, because those are a really great way to begin a rehearsal. Since they're high air, low voice, it's kind of a nice way to ease into things. And I would maybe have the group do a descending fifth in, like the descending fifth, like G, F, E, D, C, and then maybe move on from there to like a ascending, descending fifth pattern on like an E vowel, E, on a slide like that. And then run through some other vowels, like maybe oo next. And if the piece was in like Italian, I would maybe put a R at the beginning of the vowel sometimes, like especially for the A vowel, like the just to have them practice rolling their R's if that's unusual to them. Another thing to take into account when making the plan is the ensemble itself. Are these students who are performing for a grade? Are these professional singers who are getting paid? Are these amateurs who are volunteering to sing at their church for fun? Can they sight read music really well? Are they illiterate from a musical notation standpoint? And how old are they? What's their range? Are they children and they have like maybe an octave range and they're going to all need to sing in unison, etc. So lots of considerations there. Then if you've done the warm-ups, a good way to approach the practice session is big, little, big. So maybe do the whole song first and then work on a small section for a while, take the piece apart, work out, this tricky B section. A lot of times the B section is tricky, not just for choirs, but any piece, it seems like. And then try doing the whole song again. You could also do like a large section, small section, large section. So big, little, big can be useful. It's also good to start easy and end easy. So maybe do warm-ups first, then maybe sing through, like if you're working with the church choir, maybe sing through the congregational songs that are coming up for the next Sunday. And then third on the list, probably do the hardest thing. And work through that for a while, and then maybe another hard-ish thing. And then when you're getting towards the end of the rehearsal, move on to like some easier like review things. Another factor to consider is how long do I have to prepare this? Do I have 4 months to prepare this rehearsal? Are we doing this on Sunday and we only get to run through it once? Is it a 30-minute rehearsal, or is it like a 3-hour rehearsal? So you gotta have a plan to pace yourself, and it's always good to plan more things than you have time for, because it would be best to run out of time and have extra things to do than to have extra rehearsal time that you wasted because you didn't think ahead about what you could be doing right then. So it's good to always have in your rehearsal plan a if time category. And you can decide to make a printout to give out to your choir saying like, hey, these are the notes you need to make in your music, and this is the plan for the rehearsal. We're going to do this, this, and this. Or you can choose not to do that, but you should have it in your mind, and you should be able to communicate the direction to the group, even if they don't get to see it on paper. It's good to really over-communicate to the group, and verbal communication is the least effective way of communicating. So having a written handout can be helpful. And you also have to think, if you are going to verbally communicate any like announcements, when are you going to do that? There are benefits to doing announcements at the beginning, the end, or the middle of the rehearsal. So think through the pluses and minuses of that. Another good thing to do is, if you're rehearsing with an ensemble on a weekly basis, you may have some people who have to always show up late or leave early due to other commitments. So it's good to rotate when you're practicing a song during the rehearsal, so the same people don't always miss the same piece. And then you get to the performance and they haven't ever gone over that piece because you always practice it at the end, and they always have to leave like 5 minutes early or something. I think that's most all I can say, since I don't get to see the piece that I have to plan ahead of time. But those are the principles that I would apply to whatever piece I'm given at the exam. And that is my answer. So let's check it really quick. Why do a score study? To help plan the rehearsal, to help lead the group, preventing mistakes before they happen, to anticipate potential problems, be prepared to play in the ensemble. I forgot to say that. Just as an accompanist is expected to be prepared to play the piece, should thoroughly know the score, notice tempo, key changes, key modulation, form, style. I forgot to say form. Articulation, diction issues, harmony, entrances, cutoffs, individual part study, voice crossing, tone, color, style, composer, arranger, info, text, meter, range, accompaniment or lack thereof, breathing, dynamics, form, any unusual 20th century sound effects like clapping or swaying or different choreography elements. How does the piece relate to my choir? Marking the score. Physical space considerations, like how big is the space? Can a group hear itself easily? Can I hear my group? Can they hear me? Have a few different ideas to fix each problem, have several different approaches ready. It's okay to reinforce things that are going well. Okay, so I think I did a pretty good job remembering the main things there. So that's exciting, because that is the second and third question on the study guide. I still need to do the first question, which I have to study a little more because it's kind of a big one. It's describing the development of the motet. The motet in history, I should say. Like, from the 1400s to the present. So I haven't finished that one yet. But that's exciting because this is my third out of 4 study guides, so I'm almost done with it. And working on scheduling my master's degree exams, so I'm happy about that. I've been working on it for a really long time, and I can't wait to be finished with it. So, thumbs up for choral conducting.